Our guest tonight needs no introduction, but we'll give him one anyway. He played 271 games and kicked 234 goals for the Demons between 1995 and 2008. In his first year at the club, he was awarded the Harold Ball Memorial Trophy for Best First-Year Player, and then in his second year he received an AFL Rising Star nomination. He took out the 𝗟𝗶𝘀𝘁𝗲 Medal for the D's Best and Fairest in 2001 and was an All-Australian in 2002. After his playing career, he entered the coaching arena, where he was fortunate enough to learn the craft from one of the best modern-day coaches in Alistair Clarkson, and was subsequently involved in the Hawks three-peat. In 2021, he triumphantly returned home to the Demons to take up the mantle of assistant coach in charge of our talented midfield and help to mould them into the formidable premiership-winning midfield. Welcome to the Demonland podcast, Adem Yze.
Thanks for that, guys. Yeah, good to be here.
Adam, you've been involved in footy ever since you stopped playing at the elite level, so you have a terrific perspective on how the game has evolved. Since your playing days, what have been the biggest changes to how AFL footy is played in a general sense and also tactically?
Yeah, obviously a fair bit's changed on both sides of the ball in the way that obviously teams defend and attack. So I think something that's gone back to the way that we used to play is obviously the centre bounce with 6-6-6, and so that's the only real part of the game that's the same as what it was when we played. But yeah, the team offense and team defense. So most teams are defending as a group, and obviously getting up the ground a lot higher than what teams did or what forward lines did in the past, and a collective offense as well. So yeah, less 1v1s and more team offense is the way that teams are going these days. So yeah, just more. I suppose there's more numbers around the ball, and like I said, teams are defending and attacking as a group rather than individually.
Thanks, Adam. Before we get into some questions about your current role at the D's, I was interested in what other sports, if any, you draw inspiration from in terms of sort of feeding into your thinking about tactics and strategies and game plans. I know a lot of the coaches in their off-season, when they can travel to and go to other sporting clubs, and Clarko's well known for that. So I was interested in what other sports you sort of look at from a tactic and sort of strategy game plans sense.
Yeah, well, it's hard because obviously our game's a lot different and different to the majority of sports around the world. But you can, when I've travelled around obviously overseas and things like that, trying to find little things that we can bring within our game. So it might not be tactics as such, but in regards to NFL, they've got teams within a team, so their offense and defense and special teams aren't out on the field at the same time. So things that you can get from NFL in the way that they have their own line mantras and things like that, and how tight knit a line can be, based on the fact that they're the only ones out there. So going to an NFL team, you can dig in a little bit deeper on how they've come up with those mantras and things like that, and what trademarks they've got for each line. But for us, I've gone to NBA teams and things like that, and looked at the way that or the way that they review turnover. So our game's a turnover game. So you can go to NBL or NBA and really dig in and hone into their terminology around turnover, whether it's defensively or offensively. So I've tried to, each time I've gone over to do any sort of personal development, was going over there with a plan based on what sport I was visiting, and hopefully coming back with some sort of little gold nugget that might be able to excite the players. So enjoy doing that each year.
Terrific, thanks.
Adam, I think you bought some gold nuggets back last year, so well done with that. And the role of the tagger seems to go in and out of fashion. Some clubs seem to employ the tactic regularly, whereas others use it sparingly or not even at all. The Ds seem to fall into the latter category, and Stephen May, when he was interviewed post the Bulldogs game, claimed that we don't tag. Is that an accurate assessment? And are we confident in our ability to win our own ball rather than trying to negate the opposition mids?
There's a bit of both. I wouldn't say that we don't tag. There was games last year where Jack Viney did have a reference to Ollie Wines in one of the games, and so there were, and Tom Mitchell at one stage against the Hawks. So I think a lot of teams are a little bit reluctant to start with a tagger because you can get manipulated a little bit. But there's no doubt each team in their what ifs and the discussion and the planning going into each game would be speaking about if a player is getting on top of us, who could we go to, who could we tag, sort of thing, on who would we tag him with. So we don't not tag. The hardest thing with the majority of the teams that defend as a group is that if you've got a player running around chasing just one individual player, it's hard to play team defence. So that's why I think coaches are reluctant to fully tag someone. But there's no reason why we can't, and we have just had a reference for certain players at stoppages and things like that to minimise their influence for sure.
Adam, I love Goody coaching from the bench. The Sound the Alarm series on AFL On Demand, where Goody was mic'd up, was a great example of him being able to provide his troops with immediate feedback as they came off the field and be able to give them instruction and encouragement in real time. Your current role has you and the other assistants up in the box, and there aren't many current coaches coaching from the boundary. It seems to be working for Goody. What are your thoughts on coaching from the boundary, and what is your personal preference should you hypothetically get the chance at a top job, perhaps this year, even during the health and safety protocols, as we've seen some assistants be called upon to do this year, or when you hopefully get your own coaching gig?
Yeah, it's a hard one. Well, personally, I think if I was to start as a senior coach, I'd want to be sitting up in the box. And I think your initial first or second year of coaching, you want to get an understanding and make sure the players have got your game plan down pat, and you're really comfortable with the way your game's sitting. So with Goody, it's obviously not Goody's first year of coaching, so he feels really comfortable in the way that we play. We've got a pretty predictable game style. So, so for him to be able to go down and coach from the bench, you can coach the emotion and the spirit of the players down there and still have a good eye for what's happening out on the field, obviously system-wise. So, I think if it's a little bit horses for courses based on, your experience, and then two, probably the confidence you've got in the coaches upstairs as well. So, we've got a really good mix at the moment. We've got a guy in Alan Richardson that's obviously coached before, so he sits up there and helps us with the mood of the box. So he's obviously a really handy person to have upstairs as well, and then I'm obviously connected to Goody the whole time as well. So based on my role with stoppages and offense, so we really enjoy what we're doing, and like I said, we get a really good balance of me or us guys looking at the structure and the method and things like that from upstairs, and Goody obviously can keep an eye on it down there, but more coaching the spirit and the mood of the players down on the bench, and have hands-on coaching down there. So we've got a nice blend.
It's interesting, Adam, you were talking about the NFL because, of course, as senior coach, and in fact all the line coaches as well, they all are on the ground. So, the Goody in that sense is it's a bit more like NFL and being, with the players all the time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, in the NFL, I think the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator are the only two that sit upstairs. So, they keep an eye on obviously the patterns and things, because you do get a better look from upstairs with patterns and structures. So, and then they relay that down to the coach, and that's what we do.
And how often are you in contact with Goody? Like is it pretty constant or it's on demand?
Yeah, no, well, mine has to be constant based on the fact that my role's involve the two areas of the game that if you are going to make an adjustment, it's around stoppage, around structure, which I look after, and then around the way that you're moving the ball. So, and based on the fact that my role is about our offence, so we're constantly in contact each week.
So, the sort of speaking of your role in terms of the midfielders, we're blessed to have a plethora of midfielders to choose from, who are all really more than capable of holding their own in the middle. Midfield rotations and managing minutes of players has become a sports science in itself. As a midfield coach, how much input do you have on the rotations and minutes, or is that solely the domain of the elite performance team?
No, within the rotations, that's done downstairs and on the bench with our fitness staff. But what I can have a say in is the fact that we hope and we expect our players to be able to move forward and play a forward role for us. So rather than just rotating on and off the bench, having a secondary role that you can go and play and have a real impact when you go forward. So you would have noticed this year, 𝗠𝗲𝗱𝗀𝘀𝘁 being able to go down and play forward a little bit more so he can give Jacko a go in the ruck. One, it obviously helps with Jacko's development, but two, 𝗠𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗁 going down there and playing a forward position for us at a really high level is really important for us. So, so we expect all of our midfielders to be able to go and play forward and play forward really well. So, but the actual rotations and when they go on and off the ground are all based on the fitness staff downstairs.
Thanks, Adem. Just while I'm talking about midfielders, and you mentioned 𝗦cie, Jack he's having a great season. And I know it's like one of the first times he's had a good crack at it in the pre-season, but his kicking seems to have really improved. He's making really good decisions, and he's really sort of seems to have improved in that area. And I think we're getting much more sort of oomph from him. Is that your sense too, that he's in good nick and has improved his game?
Yeah, he has, and we think he's still got a little bit of improvement to go. And the main reason for that is he's being able to finish a whole pre-season. So he's always had issues with his feet and things like that, where he hasn't been able to grind out a full pre-season, and this year he has. So when you're talking about the finer details of your game, like your kicking inside 50 and your efficiency and things like that, you need time to work on those things. So he's had the ability to do that the last couple of years. So hopefully you start to see the benefit of that, because he is a beautiful kick, and there's no reason why he shouldn't be. Technically, he's a great kick. So I'm with you. I think that's a growth in his game that's starting to improve, and I think he can take that even further, which is good to see.
Excellent, Adem. Word of the month in AFL circles is momentum, and we've seen some huge momentum swings and a run-on of opposition goals in a number of matches, and particularly we saw it in the final round in 2021 against the Cats, and famously, of course, in the grand final, but also in round one of this season. The team seems to have a remarkable ability to not panic or to reset, and then be able to not only wrestle back control, but then go on to dominate their opponent. This team seems to have the confidence and belief that they can do this. How do you and the coaching staff instill into the playing group this belief in themselves and the systems and the processes so they can pick themselves up and shift the momentum of the match back into our favour?
Yeah, I think having a really clear game plan helps with that, and we're really fortunate, obviously, with the midfield that we've got, that we don't have to adjust too many things within that midfield. So, we've got a terrific leadership group that have been together for a fair few years now. So they get a real sense of how the game's tracking out there, and obviously Goody's got a real good handle on momentum shifts and whether our game's in good state. So I think there's a blend of all of that. I think clarity in the way that we play, and real clarity in the way that when things aren't working, our players and us as coaches, we get a real clear understanding of why. So the hardest thing with momentum shifts and things like that is if you're at a team when you don't know why. So we feel like we're in a nice little position on whether we've got the momentum or not. We understand the reasons why. So And that's not, like I said, not just the coaches, the players have a really good sense of that. And our small adjustments that we can make, they go out and execute it. So it's full credit to them.
And we seem to be really strong at not allowing opposition teams to take sort of full sort of advantage of the momentum they're getting, which seems to be an advantage. We've got other teams that are giving up big runs of goals. I guess we have two at different stages, but not as often as other teams seem to this season at least. So Goody's often talked, since he's been coach, and I've heard this before from other coaches, that idea of 2 seasons, the home and away season, and then finals is another season. Given we're coming off a short pre-season, for a very good reason, having won the premiership, we're in new territory, I guess, in terms of getting through this home and away season and being cherry ripe for the finals. We also have a taxing game plan that requires lots of running, lots of contested footy. Obviously, is important. Given those factors, what are some of the strategies that might be employed by us this season to get us through the home and away without spending all our petrol tickets, still making top 4, which no doubt's the goal, and then peaking for finals?
I think it's it's probably not fair to say, but I think it's a bit of a myth on feeling like we've had a shorter pre-season. The current landscape is the fact that the teams that make whether you make the finals or not, you can't start training until December the 6th. And I think it's 2 weeks before that when your first of 4-year players can start. So at no stage were any teams allowed to start before late November. So I think it actually is a bit of an advantage that that you're actually playing during the month of September. So teams that don't make the finals, all they can do is train away from the club until November the 22nd. So I get it that they're allowed to train individually by themselves, but the majority of the players that have played finals, and our boys did exactly that, is that they're that good at training by themselves when they're at home, that they come to training on day one ready to go. So I think we're at a little bit of an advantage based on the fact that we didn't have so many weeks at home where you have to train by yourself. So so we're really happy with the way our boys rocked up on day one. We've had a lot of guys that have ran PBs in their 4.1Ks, and which is really exciting after having a really strong year. So we've got full faith in our fitness staff and the program they put together while they were away. And then obviously once they turned up on day one, they've attacked their training, all obviously led by our leadership group, and they're training from day one and have been ready to go from the minute they walked into the doors.
Adam, we're seeing the emergence of a genuine superstar in front of our very eyes in Luke Jackson. I imagine that as his career progresses, we'll start to see a shift in his rucking minutes as he begins to take more of the centre bounce attendances. As midfield coach, is that something that you have a large input towards, or does that fall to Greg Stafford as the ruck coach, or does it fall to the elite performance team?
Well, it's a little bit of both. All of us will come up with a plan, but the hardest thing with Jacko is obviously he's still developing. He's only in his 2nd or 3rd year, and so he's still developing his ruck craft. And we've got an amazing ruck in 𝗠𝗀. So being able to manipulate, obviously, and work with 𝗠𝗀 within his game time. So we're really happy with the way that Jacko's developing, not only as a ruckman but as a forward. So we expect Jacko to, when he is playing as a forward, to play as a pure forward and be really dangerous when he's down there. So the blend of both is working really well now, but there will come a time where we will need him to step up and obviously take more of the load off 𝗠𝗀. So, but right now, I think we've got a really good blend. You would have noticed even on the weekend there was some quarters where he actually did start the centre bounce at the start of a quarter, which is pretty unusual for 𝗠𝗀. So, but 𝗠𝗀's embraced, like I said, not only helping Jacko and giving him more game time, but he's embraced playing forward because he's a very, very good forward. So. We've got a nice little blend there for sure.
It'll probably extend his career as well, 𝗠𝗀's, you would expect.
Yeah, correct.
On Jacko, Adam, do you see any sort of chance at any point, given how incredibly athletic he is for, although both Gawn and Jackson, but obviously Jacko in terms of how incredibly athletic he is for such a big guy, do you ever see an occasion where he might be in midfield to Gawny, or he might be in mid and Gawny rucking?
Possibly as a pinch hit, but I think Jacko's strength is his mobility and his athleticism when he's up against a ruckman. When you're actually playing as a midfielder, you're up against Bontempelli and Christian Petracca. So I'm not sure his agility will look as strong against those sort of guys, but the advantage you get from Jacko playing in a ruck is the fact that he is like another midfielder when the ball hits the deck, but it is against his ruckman. So we've got to be a little bit careful that we don't try to add too many things into his game. What we do really want is Jacko to be the best ruckman he can be when he's in there, and keep developing that part of his game. And as I said, and be a really strong forward when he's in the forward line. So, we've got to be a little bit careful and getting too tricky with him for sure.
Last season, we saw both Tom Sparrow and James Jordan take the next step up and not only join the midfield rotation, but provide valuable service and genuine contribution. Tommy Sparrow, in particular, had a fantastic game in the granny. You must be pretty pleased with the way their careers are tracking. Who do you believe the next one of our youngsters who will likely crack it into the midfield will be?
Yeah, I'm really proud of the way they played. Like, they were terrific from the minute I walked into the door. You could see that they live together. They train together. They push each other at training, and they're really competitive. So you could see that they just wanted to improve their game every day, every minute that they walked into the door. So really proud of the way they finished off the year. And it was unlucky that JJ ended up playing as a sub in the grand final, but his 23 games that he played were really consistent. And then obviously Tommy got a look in the final series and had a really strong final series. So their improvement, and we can see some huge upside in both of those players moving forward as well. They haven't hit their peak by any stretch. So, but we've got some really talented midfielders coming through in some of our younger wingers. Like Blake Howes is an emergency for this week's game, and 𝗟𝗶𝘀𝘁𝗲, they're both in really good form on the wing down at 𝗪𝗂. So we'd expect, or we could know, there's no reason why they couldn't walk into our senior team and really hold themselves in good stead. So, we've got some young talent underneath, which is a nice thing as well.
And James Jordan, it was brilliant thinking, giving him 23, because he plays a lot like Junior McDonald, doesn't he, in the way he's such a natural footballer, and he's smart, and he's the way he moves. So he's a terrific young player. Speaking of...
He's the same, and off field he's really similar too. He's unassuming, and he's just a terrific teammate. So as Junior was when we played. So it's a good analogy.
And speaking of mids, we've brought another one in, Luke Dunstan, in to the fold from the Saints. It seemed to be a fantastic bargain from the D's perspective. He's a proven performer, polled 11 votes last year. He's going to find it hard to crack into our midfield, I would have thought. In terms of, it seems that he's playing the role of an understudy, and he's waiting for that chance to get his opportunity. How's he tracking, and where's he at?
Yeah, well, his form at VFL level is obviously elite. So he's, it's fair to say he's too good for VFL footy, but right now we don't have a spot for him. So there could be opportunities for him to come in as a sub in the next few weeks. And but we do want to have a good look at him, and we know that what he can produce at AFL level it can be at a high standard. So the way he's brought into our team and the way he's gelled into our club has been terrific. So the boys love him already, and with Luke, it's not a 1 year thing that we'd hope that he gets in, tries to get involved straight away and if he doesn't jump into our team straight away, that things aren't looking good. Like, he's a long-term prospect for us. He's only mid-20s, and he's got a lot of footy ahead of him. So, he gives us some really nice balance and some depth that we've got no issue that if we needed to go to him, and we will have to go to him at some stage during the year, that he'll hold himself in good stead, because he's a terrific young player, and looking forward to seeing what he can produce when he gets in there.
And he must be pretty confident in his own ability to choose to come to a club with such a super strong midfield. So,
yeah, correct. And the reason why he was looking elsewhere was the fact that he wasn't getting as much of a go as what he thought he was at the Saints. So, it's a credit to him that he feels like he can come to a club and have an impact. And like I said, what I've seen so far, there's no reason why he can't. He's just biding his time, and when he gets his chance, he'll take it with both hands for sure.
Adam, moving on to your playing career a little, we all have our favourite Adem Yze moment from the past, but what a number of our listeners wanted to know was, what is your favourite memory or moment or highlight of your career?
Oh, it's probably my favourite and my least favourite, and it's obviously our grand final year. So being able to play in an AFL grand final has a lot of obviously highs throughout that year. So you obviously win enough games to end up in the top four, which is obviously a successful season, and then lucky enough to win a couple of finals to play in the big dance. So that season for mine, the memories of playing any sort of final and big game is something that always that's always in your mind and always in your thoughts. So, but yeah, big finals like that and making a grand final, the lead up to that was an amazing week. So, I've got some good memories of playing days for sure.
You were fortunate enough to play in 12 finals, including that grand final, yet you never won the elusive flag as a player. 98 and 2000 are 2 years where we probably were a genuine chance during your playing career. I guess I rate 98 higher. We had beaten the eventual premiers in Adelaide and then ultimately lost to North in a prelim. And then in 2000, despite our incredible finals run, it was always going to be a difficult task against Essendon, who incredibly almost had a clean sheet of a season. How did you rate those years, and do you recall your feelings about our chances in those seasons? Do you think we could have snatched a flag?
I don't think we would have snatched it. I think we played well enough to win it. We just come up against really strong teams, as you said. Essendon only lost one game. I thought in 2002 we had a really good chance and played some amazing finals, or two really strong finals that year, and ended up just falling short as well. So, the toughest thing is obviously in our time we come up against Brisbane Lions, which were one of the strongest teams going around. They go on three-peat, and the grand final we play against a team that's lost one game for the year in the Bombers. But I do mention to Goody a fair bit that the 98 season we did flog them in the final.
Yes, thank you.
40 odd points, and I do remind him of that daily. So, but yeah, they were obviously good enough to bounce back and win the flag. But yeah, those few years there, we were. The good thing for us was, or the most exciting thing was, that we kept showing up and having a crack at it and getting pretty close. So when you're doing that, you're winning a lot of games of footy and winning some finals, which is good fun.
We should see if we can organise Andy to get a journo to ask Goody about that game in one of his post-match presses.
Well, he ends up with the last laugh because they obviously won the flag. But I think back then it was a different final series, so they ended up staying in. They didn't drop out that first week based on the different final series setup. So
yeah, and that was just the 1 year, wasn't it? They went back to the old model the year after. So another year we were robbed. In your career, you played with just some legends of the footy club: 𝗍cie, Lyon, 𝗍nie, the Lovetts, Phoebes, David Schwartz, David Neitz, Farmer, as you said, Junior McDonald, Jeff White, Woden Robinson, Brad Green. There's such a fantastic list of players, and it goes on and on. I know it's a big call, and it's probably a hard one to. Who do you think was the best of the players you played with? I guess in talent and. Well, best however you want to define it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's a hard one. I've got a lot of really close friends that I obviously played a lot of footy with. But when you talk talent, I can't go past Wizard. Jeff Armour could do things on the field that no one could do, and I eerily coached 𝗟𝗶𝘀𝗁𝘀𝗁 that was really similar. Like you watch him do things on the field, it's just like you can't coach that, and you can't, let alone replicate it. So Wizard had talent-wise, Wizard was above all of them. But to be fair, I only played a handful of seasons with the greats of like Jimmy Steins, Gary Lyon, and Todd Viney. They were childhood heroes of mine, and watching them grow up. When I grew up in Shep, Gary Lyon was a 𝗟𝗶𝘀𝘁𝗏 boy, and I think guys like that were just amazing to obviously be in the change rooms with. But I played a lot of footy with David 𝗟𝗍𝗓, and David 𝗟𝗓𝗓 is by far, well, not by far, that's not fair. He was just a beacon. He was an amazing leader, amazing player, super resilient, and just a terrific guy. So I think talent-wise it was Wizard, but Nita would have been the one that was the best player I've played with.
And 𝗟𝗏, pre his first knee injury, must have been something to watch in terms of his raw talent. Yeah.
Well, I actually played in the under-18s final in 1994 at the MCG before the Melbourne Bulldogs game, where 𝗟𝗏 played an amazing game at centre forward and kicked 5, and Gary Lyon kicked 10. I played the curtain raiser to that, and then the following year got drafted to the D's, and 𝗟𝗏 did his knee at training. So it was a bit sad that I didn't get to see the best of him, but to come back from what he went through to still, I think he won a best and fairest after that. He was a terrific player as well.
Adam, you have an impressive record both on and off the field, and an impressive resume as an assistant coach. You've learned your role at the feet of one of the greatest modern-day coaches in Alistair Clarkson, and have been involved in 3 premierships at the Hawks. You made a triumphant return to the Demons, and in your very first year with the Demons, you've had a 4th premiership. So you must be jumping out of your skin to get your own coaching gig, given this credentials that you have.
Yeah, it would be nice if it was that easy that you could just walk into a club and win flags. But I was like, my time at Hawthorn, I was really fortunate. I got there in 2012 just as a part-time runner, and witnessed the Hawks losing a grand final that they should never have lost. And but the learnings they got from that was the catalyst for them winning the next 3 flags, and being able to sit there and watch the coaching staff develop a trademark and things like that, and watch the playing group buy into a trademark and really buy into a game plan that they believed in, was something that I hold really closely now. So, really fortunate to not only work with Clarko. Clarko was an amazing coach, and someone I respect really highly. But along that journey, I was lucky enough to coach with Luke Beveridge, Adam Simpson, Leon Cameron. These guys have gone on to obviously coach their own teams now. So they were with it, and Brett Radden. So these guys were line coaches that I was able to work side by side with each day as well. So obviously learning a lot from the master in Clarko, but being able to sit side by side again with guys that were really talented coaches as well was, I just felt like I was learning every day. And to be fair, right now I feel like I'm doing exactly the same thing. I feel like I learn every day, and learning off Goody and Troy Chaplin and Greg Stafford and each day. So really enjoying my time here. So like I said, really grateful for my time at the Hawks, but loving what I'm doing now.
Win a couple more flags with us, Adam, and then free to go get a senior gig at another club.
Or take over from Goody.
Yeah,
take over from Goody. Succession plan.
That's not happening. That's not happening. So,
perhaps just before we let you go, you proudly wore the number 13, Guernsey, for most of your career. There's a bloke who wears that number now who goes all right. May I ask you, who's the better player, Clary or the Ooze?
Well, that's not even He's an amazing player.
Isn't he?
And to be fair, he's from close to where I'm from. He's from Rootner, and I kept an eye on him from afar even when I retired. So some of the things Clayton does, I can't coach. He's just a super talent with an amazing will to win. He's gone from an overweight under 18 player to a really diligent guy that trains so hard and is a master at his craft. So he's a delight to coach, and I think he's still got a fair bit of improvement in him as well. So hopefully he can kick a few more goals and really round out his game.
And he's really getting good distance with, like, he's really driving the ball forward now, isn't he? That's been one of the changes in his game.
And he knows that, and that's why he's such a good player. He could see that the growth in his game could be pushing forward and hitting the scoreboard more. And he obviously watches a fair bit of footy and compares himself to different players, and he knows the good midfielders can hit the scoreboard. So, and it's not only as a midfielder, he can go down and play forward. And as a kid, he was a really good mark of the ball. So, we expect him to be able to grow his game every year, and he walks in and does that every day.
Adem, we want to thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for the joy and excitement you brought Demon fans throughout your playing career, from the freakish goals to the silky left foot passes to the spectacular speckies. Your career was littered with many memorable highlights, and to top it off, you returned to the fold and helped to deliver us a premiership. So thank you, Adem. We really appreciate everything you've done at and for the club, and thank you again for your time tonight.
No worries, guys. Anytime.
That was former Demon player and current Premiership assistant coach Adem Yze.